Hello everyone and welcome to Azam Shah Weekly. In this video, I'm going to show you that in SwiftUI how you can globally capture and display all the different errors. So basically we'll be looking at displaying the errors from a single place of your application. All right. So how can we configure the display of the errors from a single place of our application? Let's go and take a look at what I actually mean. Right? If I have a content view over here, and let's say that that particular content view has a button and it says throw an error. Obviously, in your case, it will not say throw an error. It will be some sort of operation that you really want to perform. I can go ahead and create some sort of an error over here. It can be a private enum, and we'll just say sample error, which will be of type error. And we can also go ahead and call this operation failed. Doesn't really matter. Operation failed. Okay. Now, when we press this button, which is throw error, we can go ahead and throw this particular error, which is operation failed. But obviously, when we throw this error, we want to capture this. Okay. So the question is, what should we do? Where should we capture it? And after we capture it, what are we trying to do with it? So how do we display this onto the user interface? Now, there are many different ways of doing that. What I can do is I can go and create an error wrapper, a very simple struct, and this error wrapper will be conforming to identifiable. This will have a couple of different things. Let's say some sort of an ID, because that is, you have to do that to conform to identifiable. It will obviously have some sort of the error because you're throwing the error, and it will also have guidance. So maybe you're providing some sort of a guidance that what to do when the error is thrown. Okay. So you have these couple of different things over here. For this, guidance can be, nullable, optional. Maybe you do have guidance, maybe you don't. Inside the content view, we can create a state. This is a private state, which will be error wrapper. And initially, error wrapper will be null, meaning it doesn't really have it's just optional. When the error is thrown, we will catch it and we will initialize the error wrapper. So error wrapper, and we'll initialize this, passing in the error and passing in the guidance. So what can be a guidance? Let's say, please try again. Some sort of a guidance so that you can give it to the user that this is your next step. And by the way, this error wrapper concept is from Apple documentation, Apple sample code. I think it's called Scrum Dinger application that they have. So you can definitely check it out. So this is going to catch the error. It's going to assign it to the error wrapper. That's all fine, but how do we display the error? So we can display the error using a sheet. And I can simply go ahead and pass in the error wrapper over here. I'll get the unwrapped version of the error wrapper. And this is where I can go ahead and create some sort of a view which can display the error, let's say localized description. You can even make the error nullable if you want to, that's fine. And we can also display other stuff. Let's say if I create a VStack. So all of this thing that I'm writing over here, like the VStack and all that, you should probably create a separate control like the error view, which can do that. Okay. And I can also go ahead and display, what's the other one? The guidance, not error wrapper, error wrapper.guidance. Okay. So now let's go ahead and see what happens when we throw the error. If I say throw error, it actually shows the error, which probably you don't really want to show the error to the user, I guess, unless it's a little bit more meaningful error. I don't think user will appreciate all of this stuff. And we can also provide some guidance, which is right here. Please try again. And the guidance can be more descriptive. Instead of doing this, we can create a separate control. So I can go over here and I can say error view, which is of type view. It's going to take in the error wrapper, which is error wrapper. There we go. And simply display it. So we'll need to go ahead and create the body. And in the body, we can probably just copy all of this stuff and put it there. So now we have kind of like created a single view error view, which is responsible for, well, displaying the error, the visual part of the error. I can call error view and pass in the error wrapper. It's not really going to change our look and feel. It's still going to be the same thing. Okay, so that's good. Now, everything works fine, but if I'm on a different page, like if I'm on a completely different view, and I want to display the error in a sheet or some other mechanism, I will have to write this line again. It's not a big deal, to write this line again, but maybe I want to, remove the sheet, use an alert, or remove the sheet and use an overlay, things like that. Then I'll have to go through all of those controls, all of the different views, maybe 5 or 10 or 15 views, and then I will have to, update all of that. What if we can take this out and put it somewhere else? So how can we do that? All right. So in order to do that, we're going to do a couple of different things. First of all, we can also extract this out. This state, which is a private state, maybe we can extract it out into an environment key so that we can inject it at the root and it will be available to everyone. So how do we create that environment key? Well, let's go to do that. We create a struct, and the name of the environment key is important, but I'm just going to call it show error environment key, which will be using the environment key protocol. And this protocol says that you must define the default value, which is one of the static properties. And we're going to create this property, which is a closure, which takes in an error as just an error, and a string, which is a guidance. And it's not really going to return anything. And we can also initialize it with some dummy things, like nothing, basically, like this. So now we have created a key called show error environment key. The plan is to eventually, when we are catching the error, the plan is to call something like this, show error, passing in the error that we have over here. So I guess that can be an error, and passing in the guidance. Let's say, please try again. So that's the final thing that we're looking for to do, show error. Kind of like the dismiss. If you remember, there is a dismiss also in the environment key, and you can call it like this. So kind of like the same approach. If you don't like the name show error, that's fine. You can just change it to something else. So at this point, we have created the show error environment key, but we still have to extend our environment values. So I'm going to say environment values. And I'm going to go ahead and create show error, which is again a closure, error, and a string. And this is going to be void. It doesn't return anything. And then we're just going to go ahead and implement the getter and setter, which is pretty common. We're just going to use the show environment key.self, whatever the value of that key is, to return that. And for the setter, we are going to do a little bit something similar. We're going to use the show error environment key, and whatever, since this is a setter, we'll assign it the new value, whatever the new value is. Okay. All right, great. And now it's time to see that how we can start using these things, how we can use our new environment value, which is show error. So I'm going to jump into, probably I have to jump into some sort of the root view, which is this one. Now this is when you're running your application, you have to use the learn app or whatever the name of the app is. This is what we're going to use. And we will inject into our root view, which is right here. So what are we injecting? Well, we're going to inject that particular key, environment with a key path, and now you should be able to see show error. There we go. The value is the value of the show error, which is a closure, and the closure is going to give you the error and the guidance. So we're going to get that, and we can then do something over here. With the error and the guidance, we can do something over here. Another thing we can do, since we are doing it globally, is we can go ahead and create the error wrapper right over here. So error wrapper, error wrapper. So we have only one error wrapper, which is in our application. And then we can simply assign the error wrapper once we get the error. So error wrapper, we're going to pass in the error, and we're going to pass in the guidance. As soon as we assign the error wrapper, since the error wrapper is actually state, the body is evaluated again. And it is at this time that we can also inject a sheet, just like the one that we did before. The sheet will be dependent on the binding of the error wrapper. It is going to get the error wrapper, which is, unwrapped. And then we can display our error view, passing in the error wrapper. So all of the stuff that we have done before, we're going to do the same thing, but now we're doing it at more of a root level. Let's go back to the content view. I'm going to start deleting a couple of different things over here. So all of this stuff is going to go away. We don't really need a sheet anymore because we will be using a different technique. Now, this is not really going to work in XCode Previews. If you want to work in XCode Previews, then you have to use a container pattern and make sure that this particular content view is running through there. But maybe I'll show you at the end, but let's start to see that how we can at least accomplish it if we are running it on an actual simulator. Okay, so we have the content view, and since from our app file we have injected over here the environment for the show error, we should be able to access that as an environment value. So I can go over here and access the environment, show error, and we will simply say private var show error. And now, whenever the error actually happens, we can simply call show error, passing in the error and passing in whatever the guidance you want to provide. Let's say, please try again. So where's the sheet? Well, all the sheet and all that stuff is in the Learn app right there. So we have made it more global. So if later down the road you want to do the show error and you're like, hey, I don't want to use the sheet anymore. Well, okay, then you go and change it over here. Okay, you can change it to overlay, you can change it to alert, you can change it to whatever you want. Yes, you will have to change this implementation because the alert doesn't really work with the binding, but that is your implementation that you can only change over here. Okay, and that's it. So now if you have a brand new view, let's say the add movie view or something, you just add this particular environment value and call show error and you're done. Let's go ahead and try to run this application. Well, I'm going to run it on an actual simulator. I'm going to run the simulator and see that if it works. And then I'm going to show you that how you can also use the previews. Okay, so I'm going to try to show you that also. All right, so our simulator is running, as you can see. I'm going to go ahead and click on throw error. And you can see that it kind of works correctly. You can see that it shows the sheet. Now I'm running Xcode 15 beta 8, so I may see some weird stuff logging and all the stuff. You can ignore that. Okay. Okay, so this is working great. But the question is, most of the time when we're working with SwiftUI, we are working in Xcode Previews. So how can we make sure that this also works in Xcode Previews? Well, one of the things you can try is, what if we simply inject all the stuff over here, like on the root that we have? So I can go ahead and say dot environment key path for show, I guess it's called show error. And again, we're going to do the same thing over here. We're going to get the error and we're going to get the guidance. And using the error and guidance, we have to create the error wrapper. So you will probably go over here and create the state for error wrapper, which is simply error wrapper. And then we will assign it error wrapper over here equals to error wrapper, passing in the error and passing in the guidance. Now, when you see this over here, you can already looking at some problems. It's telling you the attribute private can only be used in a non-local scope. So what about if I just remove the private? Will that work? Okay. So this is all fine. Now this is saying the result of environment is unused, which is kind of weird. I guess we have to use a return statement over here. Okay, so that is also fine. And then finally, we can go and try to add the sheet part of it. So I can go ahead and add the sheet. There we go. Okay, so this is the code that we have for our application. And if I say throw error, you can see it's not working. Why it's not working? Well, there are a couple of issues over here, right? When we are dealing with the environment, even though we can click and it throws the error, if we go and see the environment variable show error is not correctly being set, because you have to set it at a little bit more higher level. All right, so one way to do that, at least that's what I know, is to create more of a container pattern. So what we are going to do is we're going to create another struct, and this is only for the previews. So I'll call it container view, content view container, or content container view, I guess you can call it like that, or container content view. I mean, there's so many different variations, right? And this is just a view, but the whole purpose of this view is to simply wrap the content view itself. Okay. And over here now, since we are going to show the container content view, we can use all of these different things, error wrapper, and all of this stuff we can inject right over here. And instead of previewing the content view, we will preview the container content view, or the content view container. Oh, this name thing is killing me. So let me go ahead and say content view container. Content view container. All right. Or you can even say preview container if you want. Okay. So what we have done is that we have used a container pattern so that everything is now wrapped up in a content view container, which is only used for previews. So this is not something that you'll be using it for something else. All right. This is only for the previews. And this is managing the error wrapper state and also injecting the environment key as well as the sheet. Now, when I do that, you can see that the environment show error is actually injected correctly. All right. Keep in mind, I mean, you can name this content view preview container so that you never really use it in your actual application. But this is how you can wrap your actual controls, and then inject the environment values to it. And the same technique can be used if you're working with core data, or if you're working with Swift data and you want to do fetch request, or you want to do query in Swift data. Then you have to create, in preview, you have to create the container view. Okay, so there you have it. So the advantages of this approach of using a environment value to perform this action and to capture the error at just one place, not really capture the error, but actually displaying the error at one place, is that now you have one place to change. If something happens down the road and you're like, well, we don't really want to use a sheet anymore, we only want to use an alert, then you can do that. All right. You can even customize your error wrapper so that it can display sheet or alert or overlay or your completely custom things. I guess you just have to add another property, an enum, which can be like a display mode, and you can do that also perfectly fine. All right. So hopefully this will help you in your application so you're not repeating the sheet and all that stuff again and again. So hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much. Please share the video and also give it a thumbs up. Thank you. If you like this video and want to support my channel, then the best way would be to check out my courses on Udemy. I have a lot of different courses on many different aspects of iOS development. You can see I have courses on augmented reality. I have course on SwiftUI cookbook, or building a reminders app clone using SwiftUI and core data. I even have courses on Swift data, which was just announced at WWDC June. So search through these courses, see which one you like. I work very hard on these courses, so I'm sure you're going to really enjoy these courses. And check out the courses that I have. You can see right here, I have a brand new course on Swift data. If you are learning about full stack iOS development, meaning your client is created in SwiftUI and your server is created in Vapor, then this is literally the best course out there. This is going to create a complete application full stack with the database and the deployment using SwiftUI and Vapor, which is both, iOS stuff. So definitely check out those things. Thank you so much. Hope you enjoy it.